Hello, my podcast people, and thank you for joining me for yet another episode of my favorite online business podcast. If you're listening, if you are tuning in, if you are watching with your eyes on the day that it drops, it is Monday, April 27th. Welcome to the very back half, or the end of April. Things continue to fly by. Today, we're going to riff a bit about pricing and prices. But before we get into that, no real life updates. I did buy a machine from Temu. And by machine, I mean a hip ab and adduction machine from Temu. Haven't died yet, put it together. Was actually really happy with it so far. There's one piece on it that I'm like, but it's not, the thing is, it's not a Temu brand, right? So I did a bunch of research. You folks already know me. I did a bunch of research on the subreddit about home gyms, and a lot of the home gym owners were like, yeah, I buy things off of Temu because it's the actual name brand item. It's just sold through Temu. And so there's a company called HVO, and this is just their hip ab and adduction machine. And so I got it. I'm not a big person. If you ever met me in person, I'm 125 pounds on my best day. So I don't need like these big machines. And so I was like, this will do. And it does. It does do. It is definitely not a gym quality. I don't know what the word is. Industrial strength, industrial quality. I can't think of the word right now. But I wouldn't put it in a big gym. But for home use, someone my size, Lexus size, works fine. But that's really the only life update. But I do have a quick market research question. So I have been thinking about running a small workshop for folks that are interested in learning how to vibe code. I mentioned this on my other podcast, Prompting Curiosity. So if you've listened to that, thank you. But I want to throw it out here. I have been doing a lot. I continue to do a lot with vibe coding, and I love it. I think that it is what we can do. It's probably the technological advancement of our lifetime. All of the shitty leadership aside, right? This is, I've talked about this in my other podcasts, and like I think about this every day. This idea of like, yeah, fuck these leaders and the people that are running the company, but like not using it and not leaning into this seems like it only hurts us and doesn't actually do anything to them. There is time to be gained from this, right? There are things that you can avoid paying. I'm going to go into that. You can make things that are exactly what you want, and you're not going to have to buy from this big company. So I've been doing a lot with it, and I think that I know there's folks that aren't really diving into vibe coding because they're like, I just want someone to hold my hand. Like, I'm not really sure, and I want to show you that it's easier than you think. It takes some tech tenacity, but let's just say, if you are someone who's like, hey, I want to get into vibe coding, I want to take my Claude usage to the next level, I am thinking about running a small group training on this. It'll be a few hours long, probably like 3 hours long. Pricing, I'm thinking around like $150. And again, for those who want to get into vibe coding using Claude, and they want someone to hold their hand and show them the ropes and introduce them to this. The focus would be on building your own personal web apps and understanding that, making your own personal dashboard, some workflow automations, and just getting the start with that. And then you go on and learn on your own. But if you're interested in that, something like that sounds interesting to you, shoot me a DM, the Movement Maestro. And if I have enough interest, I will run it. So let's jump in and talk about prices, specifically the question that I posed in today's episode title for today's episode, which is, would you pay your own prices? So circling back to the AI conversation real quick, the ability to build and make things myself for exactly what I need has made me aware of what I'm willing to pay for in general when it comes to tech, and how much I'm willing to pay. Also, just the fact that everything's going up, prices for everything are going up. I'm very cognizant of like, do I want to pay this? But especially with tech, because I'm able to build things myself. So this past weekend, I vibe coded a personal web app that allows me to edit fillable PDFs inside of Google Drive. I actually made the fillable PDF using Claude as well. I did it a few months ago. But I wanted to be able to edit them and save them directly inside of Drive, not have to like do it over here and use like Adobe or some shit. Like, I just want to be inside of Drive. And that doesn't exist. Not for free, and not as like an extension. It's something that I use every single week. I use it multiple days out of the week. Very helpful for my website messaging audits. So before, I was using a service called DocHub, then that costs $16 a month. The free tier gives you access to 3 documents, and then you have to pay. And it's it's a fine web app, but it has all this stuff that I don't need. Like, I literally just need to be, I don't need people to sign it or anything like that. I just need to be able to fill it out and then flatten it and then send it out. So I vibe coded it. I vibe coded exactly what I need, and it is free. Yes, it is absolutely free. I deploy it via a platform called Vercel, which is free for the tier that I use. But I would also be willing to pay for Vercel. The question, there is how much would I be willing to pay? $5, $10, $15. But I use it a ton. It's super valuable. It's worth it. Same thing for just AI in general. Like right now I pay $20 a month for Claude, but yes, I would be willing to pay more if they raise the price on it, because it's super valuable to me. But all of this has made me very aware of the number that I'm willing to, I put a number on things very easily. And we all have that, right? We have that ability to put a number on things, and that makes sense to me, right? And the number is going to be different because we all value different things. So how does that play into your own pricing? Just full transparency, this episode, as I was sitting and thinking about it and sitting and writing it down and outlining it, it is more musings than anything. I try to, bring these episodes in and they have kind of lessons and like points and action items. But sometimes it's just like, I gotta get this out of my head. I want to share it. My guess is that if I'm thinking about it, you're thinking about it in some way, shape, or form. And there's also value in just, having these communal, quote unquote, conversations. Yeah, I'm going to call it conversations. It's very much one-sided because I'm just talking to you. But I would love it if you message me back and we could have a conversation. So, with all the horrendousness that continues to go on, fuck Trump now, always, and forever, you can't help but take, a moment and ask, like, how did we get here? How are we still here? What are the biggest contributors to all the bullshit that just keeps coming and coming and coming? And like I said in so many episodes, corporate capitalism will kill all of us. And it is at the heart of so much of the worst that we are experiencing today and what we continue to experience. All right. And yes, AI included. Like we see corporate capitalism having its tendrils in it, and people are just, just making these data centers bigger for no fucking reason. So I look at these things and then I ask myself, how am I contributing to things? How am I perpetuating the bullshit? And so today I want to speak about that specifically as it relates to pricing. My guess is that you listening to this, you watching this, you are likely not perpetuating the bullshit at all with your pricing, right? You folks watching this, you folks listening, you're great people. I already know. I know that my audience is the best, because the ones that aren't, they leave a fucking review and they're like, this is bad. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It's always a white man. I always fucking know. All right. Always. But my guess is that you're not perpetuating the bullshit with your pricing, and you're likely not perpetuating the bullshit, at least as it relates to your business. But like I said, this episode is more musings and lessons, and I just want to get it out there. So I saw a quote, and sometimes I just put things out there kind of like in general retaliation or like in response to what the online business environment ecosystem is and what I know is out there and like what gets said. And sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm just going to throw my hat in the ring. And here's my take on it. That's sometimes the opposite of what is like just being, shouted from the rooftop. So I saw a quote on Threads the other day from Joey T. Itmouse, or maybe Joey Titmouse. I don't know where the words break up, but the quote was bars. And it says, growth for growth's sake is the ideology of the cancer cell. That's fucking bars. One more time. Growth for growth's sake is the ideology of the cancer cell. It makes you think. That is the approach that corporate capitalism so readily takes on. Growth for the sake of growth. Let's increase the shareholder value year after year after year after year. Who are we fucking over? The consumer and our workers. But market share and shareholder value is up. All right. So again, don't forget, there is a difference between commerce and capitalism. And when it comes to setting your prices, right, I would love, and this is kind of where my head was at with this episode, and we're thinking about commerce and setting our prices, and part of the thinking that goes into that can be, would I pay that? And I think inherently many of us and most of us do that. Right? And on the surface, it does seem like a valid question. And I think that there is validity to it. Would I pay this? The amount that I'm charging, would I pay it? But there's the flip side of that as well, that, having knowledge about something will sway how much you value that thing, right? If you can do it yourself, perhaps maybe you don't value it as much. You value it in one way, but you're not willing to spend it because you're like, okay, I can do it myself. You could solve the problem yourself. On the other hand, if you can do it yourself and you realize how much effort goes into it, then perhaps you value it more, right? Which is why I always encourage people to start their own podcast and do the editing for it. And if they're going to have an online business, I want them to like do the things themselves and build the sales pages and build out the, website and the first things and understand email. Because when they go to outsource it, then they're like, oh, this is like difficult. This is a lift. And they're willing to pay whatever someone is charging. I definitely think that for things that we like doing and things that come easily to us, that's where the difficulty lies in asking ourselves, would I pay X for this service? Because it becomes a kind of a tainted question. Right? We're thinking to ourselves, it's definitely helpful, but it's easy, it's fun, and like, it's just how my brain works. It comes naturally. So no, I wouldn't pay that. But what I want to throw out there when we're thinking about pricing, right? I just think it's a valid question to ask, but I think that a question that, or something that James Olivia Chu-Hillman said during a Maestro Mafia dinner has really stuck with me, and I want to share it here, which is, what do you need? We have spoken about many times one of my favorite quotes from my good homie Jesse Rard, and that quote is, the opposite of scarcity isn't abundance, it's enough. Right? So I think we can tie these two things together and ask, how much do you need in order for it to be enough? And I realize those fucking greedy motherfucking CEOs, it's never enough. They need more because they have literally a mental illness and they are hoarders, right? And they're hoarding money and it's never enough. But it is a good question, in my opinion, to sit with and like, what is enough? How much do I need for it to be enough? And yes, the answer is going to be hugely subjective, but at least the question is being asked at all. We're not approaching our pricing and our business as endless growth for the sake of endless growth, right? And so as I was sitting here and outlining this episode, like I said earlier, it's my guess that you folks watching this and listening to this are like the best people. And maybe you undercharge for things, which is why I'm like, yes, this question can be tainted and we undervalue our services. And so like probably may be helpful for you to charge more, because they need people to ask the question, how much do I need? What do I need in order to survive, right? And for this to be enough. And so that's why as I'm writing this episode and I'm outlining it, I'm grappling with like, hey, charging more for the sake of charging more ain't it. But there's a good chance that you listening to this may need to charge more because what you're charging right now ain't it. And so, like I said in the beginning, this episode largely more musings than it is lessons or specific action items. But what prompted this episode was paying for volleyball lessons. So Kim was in town. She's a professional volleyball player that stays with us sometimes. And she ran a lesson for us, and it was like $35 a person. And there was like 6 of us, which is like super cheap. Right? Our coach that I use here, Steven, my guy, he's usually like $40 a lesson, $50 a lesson. And they're like, so for class, it's $40 a lesson, $40 a class. And there's 8 to 12 of us in class, right? And it's 6 weeks long. But he lives here. Kim lives in Florida. There's a difference, right? And on top of that, many folks in the volleyball world don't make much money, and that's a known thing. And so Kim was like, kind of like, I don't know, she wasn't shocked at his prices, but she was kind of like, made a face about it. And I was just like, I think people should charge more here. Like, yeah, if everyone in the volleyball community is like couch surfing and like can't really like make a living, then maybe like the price needs to go up. Would I like to pay less? Like, sure, that's fine. But only if I knew that it was covering what my coach needed in order to, what he needed. And I get it. Things get murky and interesting when we move them online, right? And when there's also like no physical product tied into like anchor things. But, from the online perspective, I live in California, but I'm delivering a service to someone who lives in a lower income place, a lower cost of living place. I'm not trying to be anyone's CPA, but I do think about these things. And it's great for the person going the other way, that they live in a low cost of living area, but they work online and they charge in California prices, right? So, on top of that, y'all already know how I feel about outsourcing digital work to the Philippines and then paying Philippine prices. And, it feels very whack to me. And I know that a lot of judgment comes with that on my end of I'm just like assuming what their quality of life is. And like, but it definitely makes me feel some kind of way. Right? Because it's also well known that global capitalism is propped up by exploitative labor practices in the global South. So I'm kind of like, But I know ramblings, but like I said, a lot more musings today than like action items. But bring it back to my point of for this episode and responding to the online business market and online business world in general. It just feels to me like you cannot be charging high prices and then not willing to pay them for other services that we value. Right? I charge high prices for my stuff, and then I cannot, in the same breath, be like, but I don't want to pay Steven what he's charging. Like, it's less than what I charge, right? $40 per lesson is less than what I charge. Although I do workshops, right? And I'll put it around there, so it's fine. I also charge more than that, right? An hour session with me, one-on-one, $497. How can I complain if his rate for that is $120, right? Like, again, I know it's more musings and lessons and action items, but for me, this is all rooted in that energetic approach to things, right? Put out the energy that you want to receive. Price based on what you need, but also be willing to pay based on what others need, right? And this is definitely the benefit of shopping small, which I don't mind paying him, right? He's one person. It's not this like corporation that's just like, I need more, right? And you shop small, and hopefully that they're not just trying to maximize profits endlessly, and they're not giving a shit about their employees and the customer. And I feel that way with Steven. Like he definitely cares about me. He will be my coach forever. That man cares about me. That man loves me. He has told me, and I'm like, yeah, I will pay your prices. Right? I do continue to struggle with sliding scale pricing, and I think that's largely a product of the demographic who directly interacts with my stuff. Because it's like, yes, I'm like, people have money. Like, people are very resourced that it directly interact, and I can't say it doesn't representative of everyone, right? But this is, to me, the case to be made for having scholarships and also building out the product suite such that there is something there for everyone, and they will all get a quality service. But a big takeaway, which is, perhaps this is more niche content because I don't know your financial situation. I don't. But I'm not a fan of looking to maximize what you're charging while looking to minimize what you're paying others. And I am saying this as a business owner who has an offer that's $12,000, for the year. I'm overall, I'm looking with this episode, looking to reiterate the importance of being generous in all aspects as often as we can and being cognizant of this social economy, right? We know the big problem is up. Right? It is the never-ending price increases. It's housing costing literally $2 million. Like, there's a house that's being built right next to me. They cost $2 million. I rent. I don't pay $2 million. Right? It is the rich getting richer and everyone else having to constantly raise their prices in order to stay afloat because their need keeps going up. Right? So yes, on the one hand, resist. Don't buy shit that you don't need. Shop small. Repair things. Get things secondhand. Absolutely. When it comes to your business, root your prices in what you need and what your enough is. Right? And on the other hand, as you continue to engage in commerce, don't be a dick. Don't raise your prices and then complain that everyone else has done the same. You can't charge premium prices and then not be willing to pay that to others, namely to other individuals. Right? So I'm going to leave you another quote from Threads, since I kind of opened it up with the cancer quote from Threads, this is from a user named Girlchild, Gurl child. It's weird how Cardi purposely made her hair care line affordable for everyone, and people are saying she should raise her prices to make it more exclusive. Some of y'all prove every day that you don't want equality or equity. You just want to be included in exclusion. More bars. All right, I'm going to put it up there. Like I said, more musings than lessons today, but I am always grateful for all of you, listening to my yapping. So don't forget, if you're interested in that vibe coding small group workshop, shoot me a DM, let me know. But more than that, I know there's a lot of musings, a lot of rambling today, and I'm grateful. Always grateful that you give me the space for that. So my usual wrap up, as always, endlessly, and I mean it one more time, endlessly appreciative for every single one of you. Until next time, friends, Maestro out.